It's no secret that we go to law school ultimately to get a job, and not just any job, a job as a lawyer, doing the work we want to do, helping the people we want to help, and making the money that we want to make. And it makes sense that we might think we have 3 full years in order to make that happen, when in reality, those job getting steps start so much earlier than you might realize, and those job getting windows are so much smaller than you might expect. And so in this video, we are going to dive into what it actually looks like to go about getting your first lawyering job while you're still in law school. And if you guys are in that process right now, heading into law firm interviews, then definitely check out my best questions to ask in a law firm interview guide. It's my favorite set of questions that I would always ask in interviews to turn something that was really stuffy and formal into a beautifully connected conversation that really left an impression. So I'm excited for you guys to grab those and use them in your interviews starting today. And with that, guys, if you're excited to dive in, smash that like button and let's go. So when we think of the job getting journey, fast forwarding to the end goal, which is to have a full-time job offer upon graduating from law school and working our way back, every stage has a different strategy. And that first stage is going to be your 1L summer job, or the job you get after the first year of law school. And the main goal with your 1L summer job is to get substantive legal experience. That's it. The goal, as frustrating as it sounds, is not actually to make money, and it's not to look for an employer who is looking to hire an associate when you graduate. And so that's actually really freeing in a lot of ways, because it allows you to try different areas of the law you think you might be interested in without kind of any of the pressure or repercussions to have to commit to that type of law or commit to that legal employer. And so the main goal of getting this legal experience is to then be able to use it in the sense of being able to talk about it when you head into interviews for your 2L summer job. And so the great thing is that 2L summer job employers don't really care what you did 1L summer, as long as it's legally related and as long as you can authentically talk about it. And so again, that really opens us up to a lot of different opportunities and a lot of freedom. So when it comes to landing your 1L summer job, here's what to expect. The first place to look is whether your law school has 1L OCI, or on-campus interviewing. Now, the on-campus interviewing process is way more extensive for 2Ls, but some law schools do offer 1L OCI in the sense that there are certain law firms that will come to campus to interview 1Ls in 20-minute screener interviews to see who they want to invite back for callback interviews in a much more elaborate interview process at the law firm or at the legal organization. Now, one thing to keep in mind with 1L OCI, even if your law school does offer it, most law firms only have 1 to 2 to 3 1L spots open, and most, if not all of those spots, are generally going to happen through a diversity pipeline program. So most of us as 1Ls will not get our 1L summer jobs through 1L OCI, but it's good to be aware of in case your law firm does offer it. The next place that a lot of 1Ls get their summer job is in a judicial internship. And judicial internships are just like what they sound like. You will be interning in the chambers of a judge, either at the local level, the state level, or the federal level, helping that judge write and research his or her opinions. And judicial internships are awesome. They're a great way to get substantive legal experience. They look great on resumes. Employers really value those skills. And if you think you might be interested in going into litigation or getting a judicial clerkship down the line, then judicial internships are a really great way to start that process and get that experience early on. The next category to be aware of are public interest organizations. And I would say that this is where the vast majority of us as 1Ls will get our 1L summer job experience, because there are so many of these organizations and they need help. And this is where I worked my 1L summer as well. And so a public interest organization is really just any organization that serves individuals, and specifically low-income individuals. And so the great part about it is that you can be exposed to a lot of different areas of the law that you may have heard of, but don't really know what that day-to-day looks like. So things like housing law, family law, criminal law, immigration law. And it gives you a chance to get your feet wet and see if this is anything that you might want to do long-term or later in your career. The other great thing about working in a public interest organization is that a lot of law schools will give their law students stipends to work in these areas as a way to promote the work and really encourage people to take these positions. So that's a really great opportunity as well to get some cash as you're also working in an area of the law that you may feel really strongly about. The next one to be aware of are 1L diversity pipeline programs. And we talked about this a little bit when we mentioned 1L OCI, but definitely make an appointment with your career services department to see what local, regional, or national diversity pipeline programs they're aware of or they have partnerships with, because a lot of these diversity pipeline programs that partner with corporations or law firms like to focus their energies on 1Ls rather than 2Ls or 3Ls down the line. And so it's really good to know what opportunities are available and really to focus your time and attention and apply for those opportunities if they're available. Now, if you're not having any luck with your law school's job board, with judicial internships, with public interest organizations, with diversity pipeline programs, definitely take a look at your City Bar Association website. Now, every bar association does exist at the state level, but there are a lot of them that exist at the city level as well. And a lot of those associations will post 1L job opportunities, either with judges, with local law firms, or with public interest organizations. So if you're having a tough time finding something, definitely check that out and reach out to people through the City Bar Association as well. All right, guys, so 1L Summer Job Search bonus points. If you are in a place where you're not having luck with any of the things that we have been talking about, do not discount the power of cold reach outs. I know they sound old school, I know they sound traditional, but they absolutely work. And so what we're looking for are ideally small law firms in the city where you're going to law school that ideally have an alumni from your law school working there as a partner, as a senior associate, so you have that immediate connection, because alumni of law schools tend to really like to help other alumni or students of the law school where they went as well. And when you're in this search, we're looking through Google, we're looking through LinkedIn, we're looking through career services to really narrow that search and find people who are active or at least who would be open to a conversation. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that any connection you can make with a human, with an individual, is going to go a lot farther than just emailing a random inbox or informational email. So keep that in mind, that if we can find somebody's email address, a LinkedIn profile DM, a phone number, or physically stopping by, that's going to go a lot further. So I know it can be discouraging to get to this point, but see it from a different perspective, in the sense of, if you can develop this skill set of reaching out to people cold, offering amazing junior associate help for the summer, that is something that you are going to be able to use and rinse and repeat for the rest of your life. That is something that a lot of us take many, many, many years to get used to or comfortable with, that you are breaking the barrier with right now, ripping off that Band-Aid and becoming an amazing human connection mechanism to be able to make those relationships and create those opportunities for yourself. Once we get to 2L year, our strategy and focus changes, because now we're not just looking for a law firm or a legal organization that is looking for only summer help. Ideally, we're looking for one that is also open to hiring us full-time when we graduate. And so when we're talking about 2L summer jobs, the most extensive, the biggest hiring process in law school is known as OCI, or on-campus interviewing. And essentially, it's a process where law firms come to campus, government agencies, public interest organizations will come and conduct 20-minute screener interviews. And what they're looking for are law students that they want to then invite back to their actual organization to do callback interviews. And that's where you'll meet more lawyers. That's where you'll have a larger and more extensive interview process, with the goal of offering you a job for your 2L summer, again, with the goal of then being able to offer you a full-time job when you graduate. So it happens very, very early on in terms of when that job will actually begin. But the important thing to keep in mind is that even though OCI is the most extensive process, it's also the most selective. And your 1L grades and your law school will largely determine whether you are competitive to participate. So if you want to see what that breakdown looks like, definitely check out this video over here, where I break down the law school ranking and the 1L class ranking that you can roughly expect to need in order to participate. But the good news is that most law schools will have multiple rounds of OCI. So even if the first round are the largest organizations and the largest law firms, most law schools will have a second round where you have the mid-sized law firms and the mid-sized organizations, and sometimes even a third round with the smaller law firms and smaller organizations. And so if you are headed into the OCI process right now and you want a strategic breakdown of how to prepare and really wow them in that interview room, definitely check out my OCI Bootcamp mini course here. It's the exact steps that I went through, the exact strategies that I took to really go all in on OCI my 2L year, during the global financial crisis when a lot of law firms weren't hiring. And so we get really, really detailed about what those steps look like and how to craft interview answers to the most common, most popular law firm questions so that you can really leave an impression and wow them in that room. Now, if you don't wind up participating in OCI, or you do, but you don't wind up getting a 2L summer job from it, don't worry. The vast majority of the class is not going to get their 2L summer job from OCI or their ultimate full-time job upon graduation. Now, what we need to transition into is using that drive, that resourcefulness, that grit, that creativity, and putting all of that energy into personal reach outs. And not just reaching out to anyone and everyone, although you could totally do that, but being more strategic and intentional about who we're reaching out to and what we're asking for. Now, I know as law students, we feel like we don't have a network and we don't have any connections, but that's not actually true. So here's what I would do. The first place I would start is with your 1L professors. So any professor you went to office hours with, that you formed a connection with, maybe that you got a good grade in their class, maybe you were their teaching assistant or their research assistant, reach out to them and let them know that you are starting your 2L summer job search and would love to get their thoughts on any law firms or legal organizations that might be good to reach out to, or any alumni or former colleagues that might be looking for some really amazing junior associate help. It's really incredible the stories that I've heard from my students who have reached out to the professors, asked these questions, and gotten an email introduction or a coffee scheduled or some kind of a lead on an internship or a job that ultimately became their summer job. The second place I would go, just like your 1L summer job search, is your bar association, both at the state level and at the city level where you're going to law school, because some associations have legal employer postings both for 2Ls and for 3Ls, which you can totally apply to as a 2L, that are looking for summer help. And the third place that I would focus my outreach efforts are to small law firms in the city where you're going to law school that ideally have an alumni of your law school working there. And we are trying to find a human to contact, right? So that could be an email address, that could be a LinkedIn profile DM, that could be a phone call, or physically showing up. But ideally, we want to be directing that communication at a person rather than just a general inbox that can so easily be deleted or moved to spam. And so I came across a really great tip for how to increase your chances of getting that cold reach out email read rather than immediately deleted. So I'll be sure to link that in the description below. Once you graduate law school, meaning that summer after your 3L year, you are going to be in full-on bar prep mode because bar prep starts as soon as you graduate and you take the bar at the end of July. So there really isn't going to be a lot of time to be looking for and applying to jobs while you are studying for the bar. Now, a lot of people still do that, but just be aware that a lot of law firms and legal organizations really at this point in time would prefer to wait until you have taken the bar, you've gotten your results back in that October, November, December time period, and then they can move forward with the interview and hiring process now that they know you are going to be fully barred and be a practicing attorney. Now, it is definitely the case that it is possible to look for a job and get a job after you graduate law school. But as long as we're going through the steps and going through the process, I'm such a fan of front loading that work and really giving yourself as many opportunities as possible and really, really taking advantage of those 3 years of law school so that you can open as many doors as you can and really just make life easier for your future self. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the nitty gritty of what it looks like to really go after that first job as a lawyer while you're still in law school. So if you found this helpful or interesting, definitely be sure to hit subscribe and tap that notification bell so that you get notified every time a new video comes out. And if you guys are headed into interview season, don't forget to grab the best questions to ask in law firm interviews so you can knock their socks off, wow them in the room, and really, really make a great impression. So I wish you the best of luck for everyone heading into interviews, and I will see you guys in the next video.